Hey everybody, welcome back to the How Did It Happen podcast. I'm your host, Mike Malatesta. I'm an entrepreneur who's founded and led 2 8-figure companies. I'm also an investor, author, speaker, and lifetime learner. On this podcast, I explore stories of success in every episode and with every guest. What it means, why it's important, and of course, how it happens. You can subscribe, connect, and learn more about me at MikeMalatesta.com. Before we start today's episode, I wanted to tell you about 2 quick things. First, thanks to you, this podcast is in the top 2.5% of all podcasts in the world. My goal is to earn my way into the top 1% group. You can help me with this by sharing episodes and leaving reviews. Second, my new book is going to launch on November 30th, 2021. It's called Ownership. The subtitle is How Getting Selfish Got Me Unstuck. I'll let you know more about how you can get it as we get closer to launch. Hey everybody, welcome back to the How Did It Happen podcast. I'm very grateful that you are here today, and I'm glad that you listen, subscribe, and share these episodes with your friends. That's what makes the show grow. You're definitely going to want to listen to and share today's episode because I have Robyn Levin with me today. Robyn, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
So here's a little bit about Robyn. Robyn Levin is the founder and CEO of Robyn Levin Media, a strategic marketing and PR consulting firm based in Sarasota, Florida. She is a passionate connector of small business owners to big brands. Robyn has forged strategic partnerships with companies like Citibank, the NHL, the Women's Sports Foundation, sports celebrities, and many others to dramatically raise awareness and revenue for her clients. You can learn more about Robyn on her website, which is www.robyn.com. And I was very fortunate to be introduced to Robyn by Dan Steininger. Dan has been on the podcast before. I don't remember what episode. He was one of the really early people who came on in support of what I was trying to get off the ground, and he's remained a great friend ever since. And Dan wrote a fantastic article in the Biz Times, Milwaukee Biz Times, that is, in May of 2021 about Robyn. And I read the article when I was, I think I was eating my cereal in the morning, Robyn. I read the article and I thought to myself, oh, I have to reach out to Dan and see if he can connect me to Robyn, which he did. We had an initial call, and here she is, and I think you're going to be blown away by this woman. So, Robyn, I start every one of my shows with the same simple question. How did it happen for you?
Love that idea. Well, let me take you back just a little bit in time. I heard the sage advice, follow your passion and the profits will follow. I'm sure you've heard that, and those listeners have heard that. And so I took that literally. And for me, I ended up buying a bankrupt 40,000 square foot ice skating arena in Florida, of all places. So that was my second bout into my entrepreneurial career. And when people say they think that you're crazy with an idea, I'll say, and after you hear my story, you'll hear why. Sometimes you're on the right track if everybody else thinks you're nuts.
Got it. Yeah, sure. Because, a lot of people are going to just try to talk you out of things as opposed to, get behind you and say, oh, Robyn, that's the best idea I ever heard, right?
Exactly.
So connect for us the passion and the ice arena. Sorry, I might have cut you off there, but I connect those two for us.
So I grew up as a competitive figure skater in the Philadelphia area. And so I'm an athlete, and since a very young age, in fact, my mom put me on skates at the age of 2, so I probably could skate before I could walk. And I never in my wildest dreams thought I would end up in the business of the ice skating world. But it just happened that I had moved to Florida from New Jersey with my then husband, and we were looking for a new business opportunity. And so my folks were visiting me in Florida, and I suggested at the time, why don't we go ice skating? My mother, by the way, was a child star in the Ice Follies, the Ice Capades, and even starred in a movie. So we have that deeply in our blood.
Okay.
And they were visiting, and I just on a whim, it was Christmas holidays, and I said, let's go ice skating. And there were only 2 arenas in South Florida at the time, no surprise. So we jumped in the car, my dad, my husband, my mom, and myself, and we went to the first rink, and the ice was absolutely awful. So we left because we're ice snobs. We prefer a sheet of glass kind of ice. So we went to the second place, and as we drove up, there was this huge billboard, and it looked like it was in blood red, hand-painted sign, and it said, "For lease, for sale." And out loud, jokingly in the car, I said, "For us, let's go buy an ice skating arena." So we went into the facility, and we were greeted by a grumpy old man with a heavy New York accent. No offense to New Yorkers, but we said, "Can we go skating?" And he said, "Well, you better hurry before the ice melts." So he explained that the business was in bankruptcy, and he was the landlord, and he had no idea how to run this arena, and he was pretty stressed out. So the guys went to the compressor room, and we took the ice, and that is how I got introduced to the ice arena. And then after we left, we had so much fun. We were like little kids, bringing back such wonderful memories. And I thought, wow, we're just moved from the Northeast, and there seems like there's a lot of families moving down to Florida from the Northeast. They probably have similar memories like I did. Maybe we could bring this whole thing back to life. And with that, I started doing a lot of research, and I went and visited the arena, and I was surprised to find out that they had a steady flow of figure skaters, about a half a dozen hockey teams, and the infrastructure was already in place. And they also had Olympic US skaters that were coaches. So I figured we have a pretty strong foundation, and now the work's going to begin as far as really getting into the analysis and the feasibility of the business side of it.
And what did you end up determining? Because it seems like with all those things, someone like the present owner, for example, could have made a better go of it. What did you do differently?
So we found out that the owners were a group of skaters with very little business background, and they were just totally mismanaged. So for whatever, those are the main reasons that I heard, but there was very little data to go by as far as the numbers of the business. So I decided I'm going to go around to some of my prime cities and find ice arenas and talk to the owners, talk to the managers, get to learn the business a little bit more, and then do as much research as I could, and ended up writing at the time, this is crazy, but a 40-page business plan I ended up writing. The hardest part for me was doing the 5-year pro forma. Again, hadn't done that before. And number 2, we had such little data to go by.
Right.
But as it started to come together, like this could be a real viable business, given the factors that I discovered. Though the odds were against us, I will say, in the industry.
And the folks that you talked to in the industry that were outside of your geography, let's say, were they willing to, help you in any way they can, or were they reticent, or were they? Because it seems like a really smart strategy. Like there's lots of experts out here, and if I'm not a competitive threat to them, why wouldn't they tell me, what I need to know to be successful?
Exactly, great question. And they were so open. They would tell us everything from the best vendors, who to stay away from, who to buy from, the problems that they had. They would just spill their guts and tell me everything. Very friendly. So it was very helpful. And
how did you, before you moved to Florida, what were you up to, and how much fear was involved in actually buying a business, or was that something that you had already done? You mentioned second, so maybe you had already done something like this.
Prior to that, I had been a partner in a mortgage company. I was a mortgage banker. So we did have a successful business doing that. But this was a lifestyle change that we wanted to make a change, be closer to my in-laws at the time. And we had a boat. So we shipped the boat down to Florida and built a house. And then the business came next.
Ah, okay. So were you intending to just stay in the mortgage broker industry when you moved there and just kind of
We did think about expanding that and opening up in Florida. And it was a pretty tight market at the time. I think we were heading right into a recession. And it just didn't seem like the right climate for that business. And we were ready to make a detour and say that's.
So you get your 40-page business plan, and you get whatever financing you need. You get it all put together, and all of a sudden you are the owner of a 40,000 square foot ice arena.
Yes, pretty much so. We raised money and we opened up a few months later. And I also had the very good fortune of having the Florida NHL hockey team, the Florida Panthers, were coming into town to have a brand new team. So I reached out to the general manager, Bobby Clark, growing up in Philadelphia. I FedExed him a letter and said, I don't know what your plans are for your practice facility, but I would love for you to come visit ours and see if we could be your new home. And he came up. There was a rumor that they had already signed with another rink in Miami, but it turned out that things weren't going that well. And with a little convincing, we ended up signing a 5-year contract and a very big advertising sponsorship in addition to that.
So that would be their practice arena, or?
So we were their practice facility and sublet 11,000 square feet to them. So they built their training headquarters. They put quite a bit of money into that. And then it was a conscious decision we wanted to have the practice sessions open to the public. So we really were tied to the Florida Panther hockey team in so many different ways.
Got it. And what page of your business plan had that plan?
That was not in there. That's called luck and timing.
Yeah. Bobby Clark, that's amazing. Broad Street Bullies, Bobby Clark shows up. That's phenomenal. I've got a old school Bobby Clark hockey card I was just going through recently.
Really?
Yeah, because I grew up in near Philadelphia too, so that was my team, and that was awesome. So if he walked into something, I think I might have fallen over. So,
It was very exciting. And we were also, that was also the time, tells you how long ago it was, but around Tanya Harding and the Nancy Kerrigan little incident.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that was very sad for them. But again, it just had a surge in viewership for ice skating.
Right. So did you start, I mean, the connection with the Panthers seemed like sort of an unintended, amazing blessing, but how did you approach the operation of the rink before that? Like, you're a public relations expert. I'm wondering what you did. I don't know if you were at that time or that's sort of something that you've become since, but I'm wondering what you did to sort of breathe life into this place, keep the compressors going, and do all the things that you needed to do to take this thing.
Yes. So my partner had the background in building and he was an engineer. We thought very differently. And my background was in money, marketing, and ice skating. So between the different skill sets we combined, and basically our goal was, you make sure we have the best ice skating surface and I'll make sure we make money. That was our simple goal.
Okay.
Now, I do have a marketing degree and a degree in international business, but really there's no substitute for getting in there and just doing it. And I learned early on, I remember reading a story about a chicken franchise. I was working at the gym, reading a story about a chicken franchise in our local Fort Lauderdale newspaper. And it was about a husband and wife who happened to be customers of mine. And there was a full page article on their business. And I thought, wow, my business is really successful. I mean, really different. And we should be in the newspaper. We should be in the media. So I figured I need to go the PR route and start telling the stories, because the stories were fascinating of my customers. Not necessarily our business, but it was all about really human interest stories. And I've been a little bit of a social butterfly since I was a kid, and curious by nature, like you, to find out about other people's paths, where they came from, what's their story. And I love learning about their culture. And so that worked really well. So I started figuring out, it started with a press release, and I would package these stories together, take the photos, put it all together, and pitched the proper editor, reporter an idea. And that triggered dramatic, regular press. And we were very fortunate. I had great relationships with the reporters, and they loved the stories. And so they helped catapult the visibility.
Robyn, that's so smart to tell stories about your customers and, what your business means to them or what it does for them instead of promoting your business, right? Because the stories of how their experience improves their life is a much better story than, hey, we got, whatever you have, right? Because very smart. Very smart.
Thank you.
And so how long did you, well, I guess first of all, I should ask, did you remain passionate about skating when you owned a skating facility? Or did
So what happened was, as much as I wanted to return to skating, we worked so hard in the business. The saying about, as an entrepreneur, you can work any hour you want. You're going to be working a lot of them.
Yes.
So we worked so hard that for the first 2 years, I didn't have time to skate. I was too busy building the business, building our culture, our employees. I opened up a 2,500 square foot retail shop. And then we built a sports bar because we figured we wanted our customers to linger longer, and how could we keep them from having more fun? So I was very driven about the customer experience. And our goal was, I would tell the staff, we want people leaving here saying, that was so much fun, I can't wait to return. So we were extremely customer focused always.
Smart.
And
oh, go ahead.
And so we had these Canadian hockey teams that would come in. We would have tournaments, and they would leave because they wanted to drink their beer in the morning, and they wanted to drink their beer in between games and afterwards, and smoke their cigarettes and in the lobby. And so I thought, well, we have this beautiful window overlooking the ice arena. Why not put in a sports bar and with palm trees and get a beer license instead of losing them to go down the street to the local sports bar? So we ended up putting in Sub-Zero Sports Bar. And I basically was just increasing more profit centers under the same square footage.
And you mentioned Sub-Zero.
See what worked.
Did you get Sub-Zero to kick in to put their stuff in there too? And you named it after them? Or was Sub-Zero the ice thing?
We named it. It was our business. So we put it in. We built it.
Okay.
We built it. But I did get, I grew the brand really essentially two ways. Always leveraging strategic partnerships. So with the sports bar, we had great partners. We had our distributors. And then with the ice arena, I would sell dashboard advertising. So when you would go around the rink, you would see signage. And so we raised revenue through advertising and worked with Coca-Cola and Subway and pretty much the local businesses. So strategic partnerships and PR were really the two keys that still work today. Very much so.
And eventually the Panthers bought the business from you. Is that correct?
Eventually, yes. Yeah.
How long did you own it for?
A really great run. We had also did celebrity workshops. There was a time it wasn't always easy. In fact, it's a hard business. I wouldn't tell anybody to just go and take that on without a huge commitment to the time it takes, the staff it takes, the hours it takes. So there were definitely ups and downs. It was definitely not a straight path, but once we got it going, it did shape like a hockey stick.
So you mentioned that the Panthers weren't part of the business plan. What are some other things that you ran into that you were just describing, maybe some of the hard things that you had not maybe anticipated, or you certainly would rather not have experienced maybe?
So we inherited one Zamboni and parts of a second Zamboni. So in the middle of winter, our key machine broke. The backup one wasn't really holding up too well. Okay. So we had a $50,000 unexpected expense and had to fly to Fargo, North Dakota to buy a new Zamboni. So
okay.
Those are some of the unforeseen things that weren't in the business plan, but we like the pandemic, you have to pivot and figure out other ways to to make the business successful. So that wasn't planned, but we worked around that. And again, I just put more of the time and energy into the PR side. And so the more stories that we were getting, bus loads would come in of kids to go skating. We really put the arena on the map.
This is just a kind of an off the cuff thing, Robyn, but do people sue ice rinks a lot for injuries?
I feel like you have a direct line right into this business. Yes, they do. They slip and fall. A little kid gets his chin cut, and next you know, they want to have a plastic surgeon deal with it. So there were some of those. We could have 1,000 people skating in a 4-hour time period with 12 birthday parties going on. And there's a lot happening. And with that many people, you are bound to somebody slides, gets a little injury. But fortunately for us, it really didn't. We didn't have too many. We didn't have threatening lawsuits for that. They were minor issues that we had to work through and calm them down.
Well, fun fact, and it's wouldn't have helped you in your Zamboni situation, but when I was growing up, actually where my mom still lives, our next door neighbor, Ivan, was a Zamboni repairman in the Philadelphia area. Yes. Yes. So he worked on the Flyers Zamboni, whatever I can't even remember the name of the arena now, but yeah. So that was kind of a little fun fact. Take us off on a little detour there. I apologize, but it just popped into my head.
That's great. Kind of it would have been nice to have one. We had handy people, but that's a specialty for sure. And that's the one thing I did not do. I never drove the Zamboni. People would ask me that.
Oh, you never did?
A lot, but I haven't done that.
Oh, I thought for sure you'd be out there doing that. That would be great PR. Like maybe sell Zamboni rides. That would be cool.
No, but there was one of the PR pitches was a couple prepares for an ice cold marriage.
Okay. That's a good. All right.
Dressed in wedding attire. We also had, I think that one of the keys to the success was listening to our customers. And instead of, you may have experienced this, you'll go into a store and ask for a product and somebody at the store will say, no, we don't carry that. We get that request so many times, but we don't offer that. And so why not?
Yeah, right.
So when we would hear the requests for certain things, I would be tuned in to think that could make sense. Let's explore that. And for example, we ended up opening a little consignment shop because the parents would come in saying, my kids are growing so fast. We just bought skates from you last 6 weeks ago. I need new skates. What do I do with the old skates? So I said, well, maybe we could resell them. And so we just had this little consignment shop going in there too, to, again, keep them loyal, giving them something back so they can not feel like they're just throwing their money away.
Right. Just another thing to keep them coming back to you. Like, oh, buy new skates. You can get rid of my old skates. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yes. And then some other things that weren't planned. I had a opportunity. Oh, you asked me about the scary times. Yes, I'll remember there was a time, the month was May, and we were struggling. It was just, business was a little bit weak and payroll was getting a little scary. And I remember my manager was on the phone and I heard him say, oh no, we could never close the rink for a weekend. And I'm thinking, who wants to buy the rink for a weekend? So I just took the phone and said, let me see if I can help this person. And I said, tell me, who am I speaking to and how would you like to use the facility for the weekend? And it was a production studio out of Miami. And they said, we want to come and film a commercial and we need an ice skating arena. And I thought, well, this is a good opportunity. I'm going to have to figure it out. Now that we just booked all this ice skating time over the year, I will figure out how to make it up to everybody, but we need this for sure. So I knew my numbers and I threw out a number and they said yes. And so they ended up coming in and filming the Olympic commercial for Lennox Air Conditioning. And they transformed the entire arena into a speed skating track. Brought all these trucks in and people in. And it was really exciting. So then I made a flyer saying, we're now a production studio for your next film or your next commercial.
That is cool.
Look at Mike's face.
Yeah, I'm like, what? So they customized it and then they put it back the way that It was. Is that right?
They came in, we were completely transformed into a studio set, and they had the vision to transform it, film the commercial. And then shortly thereafter, I was approached from a German magazine that wanted to film their swimwear line on the ice. I said, why not?
And so how long did you have it for, and what happened after you ended up selling it to the Panthers?
So I had it for about 5 years, and I did have an exit plan. Like Stephen Covey says, the famous author, know your end goal. So I definitely knew that I wanted to build it, grow it, and sell it, and move on to something, whatever's new and next. And I actually got to take a little bit of time off, which was the first time in a very long time, probably since I was a teenager, because I've always worked. And I took some time off, and then it was around 2000 when the internet started coming around and websites started to come into the discussion. And I thought, well, this is going to be something big and I want to get involved. And at that point, I decided I was too young to be done. I wanted to do something new. And I had an opportunity to go to San Francisco. And that's when I started my digital marketing company. So I left Florida. I was there for 12 years and went to San Francisco, which I was there for 12 years. And I wanted to utilize the PR background that I had and also leverage tech. There's a little geek in me. So I like to use technology and storytelling to help accelerate the client's growth and visibility. And I figured, why not go where the action is? That was California.
And did you know someone there, Robyn, or did you do sort of what you had done when you were looking at the ice rink, where you were looking at trends of people moving, from the Northeast?
I knew somebody there. I knew a CEO of a company who had just moved his headquarters to Florida. And we talked back and forth, and he said, if you really want to get involved in that but that field, then you definitely want to go out to California. And he made some introductions, and that's where I went, and was very, very fortunate to meet up with another CEO at a company that needed a lot of help with their brand building and visibility. They were successful, but little known. So they were a best kept secret in their industry. And I was hired to help them out, and that became a 7-year contract. And I helped them grow to $3 billion in 3 years. And that was in the financial services arena. So it wasn't quite tech, but I used the tech and used the marketing background to help them out.
Okay. So that's all, $3 billion in 3 years. I mean, were their expectations much higher? I mean,
that was, we were pretty pleased. That was, it was a niche industry in the alternative asset retirement arena, which is known as self-directed IRAs. So it was just an unknown, untapped marketplace that I was becoming aware of. And I thought, well, this looks like it's going to be a big opportunity, both for myself and the client and the industry.
Okay. Well, before I get more into that, I want to go back a little bit, if you don't mind. You mentioned that you've been working since you were, in high school, and I wanted to go and ask you about some of those jobs. What were some of your early jobs? Because I'm just trying to understand what informed you as you were coming of age, so to speak.
I have a retail background. So I worked in retail when I was in college. I also volunteered for a rehab hospital. So giving back was important to me. And I helped the geriatrics actually with physical therapy. And I thought for a minute, maybe I'd want occupational or physical therapy when I was in school. But then after that experience, that was sad. And I decided not to do that. But so I have a pretty strong retail background. And when I graduated college with a marketing degree, I thought I would be able to get a job as a director of marketing. But back then, those jobs were scarce. And it was very hard to get into marketing. So the route was sales, corporate sales. So I ended up going into that direction for NHL. the big international air freight carrier.
Okay. Yeah. I thought you said NHL, like the hockey, NHL.
Oh,
And
wait a minute. I'm sorry. DHL.
DHL. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I guess I have that in common.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the HL parts. Yeah. Right.
So there was, yes. So my background's been in marketing. The goal is always it's the psychology of human buying behavior, basically, with a minor in psych.
Okay.
And though, as I said, many entrepreneurs don't go, as you know, very successful ones, either drop out of college, start their career in a garage. It's not necessarily, the education is good, but it's not going to really, it's a good foundation, but there's just no substitute for getting in there. And really, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you just got to get in there and take the risk.
Yeah.
Calculated risk.
Right. Yeah. Find a problem and solve it.
And I also come from a family of entrepreneurs. My father was a corporate attorney who was a founding partner at a law firm. Very sadly, he died very young. And his father was a butcher and had a booth in the Reading terminal. So for any listeners out there that know Philadelphia, he had a stand there. And my cousins, our whole family are entrepreneurs. My brother is in the waste management business for about 40 years.
Really? That's what business I'm in, my day job. It's interesting.
I know. Huh. I should connect the two of you.
Yeah. What does he do? What?
He's a broker.
What part of the? Oh, okay. Okay.
He's a broker. He's moved everything from hazardous materials to paint to everything.
Okay. Cool. So when you got,
I should definitely connect the two of you.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, let's do that. When you got to San Francisco and you were, talking to the CEO of the trust company that hired you, I'm trying to connect your experience as the entrepreneur in the ice skating rink with this new opportunity. Was there a connection at all, or was it your degree and just sort of all of the things that had made up your career up till then that impressed the person and said, yeah, we can, this makes sense. I'm just.
Well, I was doing research in the industry because personally, I wanted to look into putting real estate, buying real estate with my IRA. And I was looking, like yourself, to diversify my investments. And I learned that you could do this, but it was a really complicated process. And I remember asking my CPA, how do I do this? Like, I want to learn about investing my retirement funds in other areas outside of the stock market. And he said, oh, it's so complicated. And he was pretty negative about it. So I did a little more research, and this company happened to be in San Francisco. So I spoke with VP of marketing, and I said, what are you doing to get the word out? Like, this is such a great opportunity that people need to know about. So it was a personal interest, like the skating, if you want to tie it together. There was a personal interest, a bit of a passion. And the VP of marketing said, yes, we really, really need some help in this arena. So he set up a meeting with the CEO, and we met. And I had some ideas right off the start, and we had a couple of meetings, some proposals, and we started work together. He said, we really need the help. So with that, I was really early on with, we started a CEO blog. Blogs were just starting. We wrote an ebook, the first one in the industry.
First ebook in the industry. That's interesting. Okay.
So it was both word of mouth and also an introduction. And my goal when I got to Tiburon, I lived in Tiburon, if you know where that is.
I don't. Where is
Tiburon in Mill Valley. It's just across from San Francisco.
Okay.
And when I moved there and saw San Francisco skyline and this beautiful ferry that would just take people from the Tiburon to San Francisco, I visualized how wonderful would that be to have an office in the city, amazing clients in the city, and to commute by ferry. What a lifestyle. And fortunately, I was able to make that happen.
And so you spent, I think you said 7 years. Was it 7 years total there and in San Francisco before you moved back? And
I wasn't just exclusive to them. I also had other clients that I was doing marketing for, and also speaking at conferences on marketing. And I created this little cocktail napkin plan, which was a four-step marketing strategy template, which is still available today to help unfocused entrepreneurs and business owners get clear on their marketing. And it's an interactive template. So I launched that, and I had other clients that I was also working with. So it wasn't just that one client.
okay.
So I had a marketing agency.
Okay. And then at some point you moved that agency back to Florida. Is that right? Or no?
Yes. I was there for 12 years. Right.
Okay.
And there was a start and a stop, because when I got there originally, it was right at the height of the tech bubble. So I got there, if you picture going up a roller coaster, and I was just about almost to the top. That's the economy, and just completely plummeted in the early 2000s. But then there was the restart. Things happened fast out there. So that was a 12-year.
Got it. Okay. So this cocktail napkin plan thing, can you tell us can you walk us through that I'm really interested in that you said it's a 4-stage process, or 4?
It's a 4. So I used to, when I was consulting, I would use a cocktail napkin and just ask some questions and help the clients get clear. And I figured, if I can do this on a napkin, why not make it like an interactive template, which was a PDF. And it walks you through 4 steps, 4 questions. And so the person answers the questions, and it provides marketing clarity, and it also has strategies to choose, and it creates a 1-year timeline with quarterly marketing strategies and goals. And at the end, it fits on a cocktail napkin. So you can actually print it out the size of a cocktail napkin.
Okay. So
it's on cocktailnapkinplan.com if anybody wants to grab a free strategy template.
Okay. cocktailnapkinplan.com. So
right.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So that's like a 4-quadrant thing. I like it. So I don't know, I guess I'm interested now, like, since I've got you here, and since you're a marketing expert and most people aren't, I think most people probably would have a hard time filling out the napkin. Am I right? Because I think I might have a hard time filling out the napkin.
Mike, it's interesting. I've had people that say this is so ridiculously simple, and I've had other people tell me that they spent 8 hours hauled away in their condo in Lake Tahoe by the fireplace, told everybody to not talk to them for 8 hours straight. And so it's a different experience for everyone.
Okay. And so when is that sort of the way you get started with all of your clients now, Robyn, or is it that just one?
It's a great tool. It helps with getting clear on the marketing messaging. A lot of people today with social media, they chase platforms and just run to the next platform to do the marketing. And oftentimes it's not the platform, it's the message that's missing. The message is not perhaps the correct message that they're getting out there. So that's a part of the cocktail napkin plan, is also walks you through the different strategies. And there's traditional, and there's also digital marketing, and how to tie all of this together in a cohesive way.
And how have you, well, first of all, before I ask that question, I guess you brought up, chasing platforms, and I think to myself, oh my gosh, you're right. There are so many platforms now, and every one of them, positions itself as something that, will, stack your lead funnel, so full of, your business will go like the business you talked about, 3 billion in 3 years. And I know, because I have like a very strong interest in marketing, but no skill set or no formal training. So I'm the kind of person who can be impacted by or influenced, I guess, by all of these different things. And what you said, I think actually made a lot of sense if you're not clear about your message, it doesn't really matter what platform you're on. Is that what you were saying?
Exactly.
If you don't get...
And also, for example, the client that I was talking about is PENSCO Trust Company, and they had two audiences. They had a B2B and a B2C audience. So even in that example, how you communicate with the B2B audience is completely different language than how you would communicate with B2C. And so that's one example of two different audiences. And then you look at the different channels of communication and then where they are in their buyer journey. So there is a lot that goes into it.
And are you saying that getting clear about your message, that has never changed? That's sort of always got to be, that sort of always has to be the foundational part of a marketing plan in order for it to be successful. And because I was thinking to myself, if all of these new platforms and, plugins, all this stuff that you can do now, if it all made everybody rich faster, I think the economy would be doing much better, so there has to be something more to it. And I guess I'm just, does it really start with the basics, get the basics right, and then platforms?
Yes, I think even in terms of elite athletes, it goes back to, you have to master the fundamentals.
Right.
Even with athletes. And so with marketing, the pace of change today is insane, as you well know. Marketing is just, everything's disrupted. Things are changing so quickly. What worked yesterday doesn't work today. What works today won't work tomorrow. And it's important to be up on all the technology, but also return to the fundamentals and the basics and look at your customers first before your product and your service. Put your customers first.
And who do you like to work with now? Is there a particular
I like
industry?
to work with purpose-driven entrepreneurs.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
They're making a positive impact.
And just out of curiosity, how do you define purpose-driven?
That they're making a difference in this world in a positive way. Not just chasing money, but it's for the improvement of something besides themselves.
Okay, fair enough. So let me get back to the messaging thing, because I'm kind of fascinated by this. So I'm sorry if I'm spending too much time here, but how I find that, and this has happened to me, people that are in a business are so close to the business, they often miss what the message really is. They discount the value of what they're doing, or they basically define themselves like the industry defines everyone. I mean, there's this inertia, I think, sometimes to get just gravitationally pulled into sameness. And I don't think that's right. That's not what you should be doing. But I'm wondering how, well, in your experience, what do you see people come to you for help? What do you see them doing that makes them, ideal clients for you, and outside of being purpose driven? They must be missing something.
Well, sometimes they're so focused on their product or the service, so it's more about the features rather than the benefits. Yeah. There's other areas where they're clearly thought leaders in their industry, but they haven't taken the time to elevate their thought leadership and talk authentically about why they're in the business that they're in and how they're making an impact. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, you get so busy in the business and with so many other things that are happening that marketing's complicated.
Right. Yeah,
it's the psychology behind it. It's what's going to motivate that customer or that potential customer. How are they going to find you? How will you make their life better? So the communication is vital. The tools are one thing, the tactics are another. There's the strategy, and then there's the whole story that's wrapped around it.
It's kind of like your whole approach at the ice arena, where you were focused on your customer's experience, not what were they getting out of it, right? So that's the story that matters to people. How's it going to help me, or how am I going to feel better as a result?
Right. I was in the business of providing ice cold fun and entertainment.
Do you miss it?
I miss skating.
I know it's been a long
Definitely.
time, but do you miss running the facility and building it the way you did and having all those things happen? Or is it just kind of like, oh, well, that was a thing that I was into for a while and now I'm on to whatever else I'm doing?
I am fascinated by what's new, what's next. I do gravitate toward that. It excites me, and I like to share that with the clients that I'm working with to introduce them to new ways to do things. So as much as I loved it, it was an amazing ground for learning everything you could possibly learn as an entrepreneur and building a culture. I had a wonderful, wonderful staff. And so I missed those parts of it, but I've had really great opportunities beyond that, and I'm still looking to continue on. I didn't know I was creative. People would tell me I was creative, and I used to think, oh, that meant you painted or you wrote poetry, and I didn't consider myself a creative person. And I think as I get older, I'm recognizing that I'm more creative than I thought in different ways.
Yeah, that's so funny that you say that, because I think and for a long time, I think that's what it was. If you were an artist, you were a painter or a poet or a sculptor or whatever. And now the term artist is used sort of ubiquitously. I don't know if I got that. It's used all over the place for any kind of talent. So any creativity is art now. So I think I'm glad you said that, because I believe that everybody has some art in them. They may not be able to paint, they may not be able to write well, they may not be an author, they may not be a sculptor, they may not be a poet, but they have something that's unique about them, that's artistic and creative, and it's not something that they picked up by education or influence. It's just something that is innate, is natural in them, and waiting to come out or be explored. Do you feel the same way?
I do. I think as you have new experiences, and if you're open to new ideas and go with the flow, I think that's one thing with skating, to be in that flow, the mental state of flow when things are just going and you're out of your head and you're just living and experiencing it. And I think that's where creativity comes from, in a different state of mind, rather than we are inundated with so much information, and the pace of change is happening so quickly. So right. Slowing down isn't a bad thing. Going for a walk in nature, and there's something to be said about calming our brain and
yeah, well, sometimes
letting the creativity come in.
Right. You have to slow down to speed up, I've heard people say. That's kind of what you mean. You have to get out, whether it's, you have to give your creativity an opportunity to, bubble up, I guess, to use sort of a corporate word, bubble up, so you can't be creative if you're in the midst of doing stuff all the time. Right? It just doesn't happen very well that way, even though people will think it does, because it'd be like, oh, I had a great idea but actually being very creative and being maybe transformational, or coming up with transformational ideas, isn't going to happen when you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are working on, the same thing they work on every day. You have to I think you're right about that. You have to get out. You have to get your mind in a different place. So that you
do. And I mean, sadly, the pandemic forced all of us to go into a different place, and we all had to be creative, and we had to make changes and do things differently at a pretty quick pace. So it's interesting to see how people are changing their lives and their attitudes because of that.
And so how did you segue here, but the guest speaker position, or whatever it's called, that you've had at Wharton, the executive MBA program, how did that develop or evolve, or where did it come from? That sounds pretty heady, so that's why I'm thinking that's pretty cool.
This is one of those circumstances. I think I'm a natural networker. And so I was at a Temple University alumni meeting in San Francisco. I happened to see a meeting there and I thought, well, that could be interesting. Maybe I could meet some people from Temple that I haven't seen in a long time. And so I ended up meeting quite a few people, including the faculty of the marketing department. And we started talking, and I was accepted to a program at Temple where I was a junior, my junior year abroad. I studied international business and for a year. And so we were talking about that experience. And I said, gosh, I thought I was just going to fail. It was a hard program. Those people would think, oh, you went to the Netherlands for a year. You probably studied pot or something.
Right. Because that's all Americans know about Netherlands.
Exactly, right? Exactly. But it was more like the London School of Economics. I had no idea how hard of a program it was going to be. And so I think I told them, I think you should move that into your MBA program, which they eventually did move into the MBA program. Okay. But then because they asked what I was doing now, and I told them about the digital marketing and the webinars and YouTube and all the things that were happening with how marketing has changed so much. And they said, would you like to come back to Philadelphia next time you're there and teach a class to our marketing students? And I said, sure, I'd love to, because I would go back to Philly. My family's still there, and I would go back several times a year. And I was invited to teach at the Temple University School and also Wharton's executive program for MBA. Their MBA, it's a tongue twister there. Executive program for working professionals.
So somebody like me wants to get my MBA at Wharton.
Right.
You'd be a guest speaker in that.
Yes, for working professionals. Right.
Yeah.
So I was invited to teach there, and I shared the cocktail napkin plan with the students. I used it as an exercise to teach them how to market your business and get a plan on a little cocktail napkin. But I also taught, it was fun. We had contests with the kids, how to grow a business using social media, for example. And we ended up having teams put together, and then there was a little contest, and within 45 minutes they learned and they created businesses on paper and utilized all the strategies, and then they competed and the winners got credits. So it was really exciting.
Oh, nice. Do you remember how the Netherlands was an abroad destination for international studies? What was the draw?
So there was a school there called, the University of Nyenrode. It's the Netherlands Institute for Business. And they have 500 Dutch students and 30 Americans that attend.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually a school, and the administration building and the bar were in a 13th century castle, which was super cool, surrounded by a moat. Oh. So we had happy hour there in the Zelder bar, which is the basement of the bar.
So that had to be amazing to think about the people who were there back then. You know, what kind of people were there discussing issues of the day and writing probably some, unbelievable books and poems and, all of that kind, and maybe diplomacy, maybe.
Exactly. There were students that were definitely headed in that direction. And yeah, it was a fascinating time and a wonderful group of people.
So
international business was the big, that was the main theme.
International business. Okay. So that was the main theme, and beer and pot were the other.
Pot, no, but only in Amsterdam. This was outside of Amsterdam. Okay. That was just on the weekends. No, just kidding.
So where are you going now? Where are you going? Where is your business going? Where is marketing going?
I'll tell you what I just did. Something new for me. I've utilized video with storytelling for many years, since 2008. So for a musician client, I just co-produced and directed 2 music videos, and it's all about the story of the song.
Huh.
So I'm marketing in the pandemic, marketing a musician who's in Nashville. She's not country. Her name is Autumn Knight. She's exceptionally talented. She's also an actor. And we just started working together in the fall, actually, in the fall of this year.
Okay. Fall of 2020.
Yes. So things have changed a lot. With that, we started, for my clients, we launched virtual events, virtual concerts, virtual fundraisers. I have a nonprofit client that I work closely here in Florida with. And instead of their physical event, like a lot of people on the call that are listening, everybody had to shut down their physical events. And so they said, what should we do? Should we just wait till 2022? And I said, or 2021. And I said, no, why don't we have a virtual event instead of the physical expo? So the end of last year, together with the team I put together, we hosted our first virtual learning expo and had 200 attendees, and it was 2.5 hours long. So I put together an entire program with comedy, with musicians, and with education. In fact, the keynote was about how to improve your brain health performance. And it turned out that it was more successful than their in-person events. So we're going to have another one in November.
Oh, nice.
So just embracing change, embracing the technology, the tools out there. And really it was really fascinating is we've fostered a community online of older citizens that felt absolutely desolate, lonely, and isolated during the pandemic. And they said how this saved their life. One of them said this saved their lives, the online learning experience. They felt trapped in their environment and they couldn't see their family or their friends. And so this basically got them through the pandemic.
Man, that had to feel good.
That would be an example of purpose-driven.
That is purpose-driven. Yes, you are right. So Robyn, how do, I mentioned your website at the beginning, robynlevin.com. How do you want people to get a hold of you? Because you work with people anywhere. You can help people anywhere. The cocktail napkin goes global, right?
Yes. Yes, so do I.
Yes. Okay.
They can get a hold of me. My website is robynlevin.com. And for anybody that wants to learn more about the PR process, I have a course that's called PR-course101.com. They can easily enroll. That's a 10-minute preview of how to get started in the PR process. But you asked me where I'm going. I'm also producing more content to have online courses so I can teach a lot more people what I've learned and help them as much as I can through online education.
Wonderful. Well, Robyn, it's been so much fun to get to know you, and thank you for coming on the show. For those of you who are watching, you'll see that she's got this great smile that never leaves. It's always there. It's just so much fun, and your eyes light up, and you're a joy to talk to, and thank you for sharing your amazing experiences with us today.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been really fun.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the How'd It Happen podcast, where we believe that success doesn't happen unless you make it happen. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you like to listen. And while you're there, please rate it and leave a comment as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the show, ideas for future guests, or whatever you'd like to share. And of course, you can always find me at MikeMalatesta.com. See you next time. Thanks again for listening to the How'd It Happen podcast.